Hey, hey, hey now. Happy Sunday. It is a beautiful Sunday afternoon. Boa tarde. Gotta talk about Portugal, so I should probably be speaking in Portuguese. Hope you all are doing well today. Um, mm, I have been live 2 days in a row. And then if you follow me on Instagram, you know that I was live just a couple hours ago doing like a packing type decluttering little live. So that was fun. So this is really my second time going live today. So glad y'all could be here. I probably should introduce myself for those who don't know me. I am Krishan Wright, the founder of Blaxit Global and the host of the Blaxit Global podcast. Blaxit Global exists to empower and inspire members of the African diaspora to pursue a life abroad. So if you're interested in moving abroad, or if you're in this live, you're probably interested in moving to Portugal, you're in the right place. So glad you're here. I want to give a shout out. I see y'all were in the comments early today. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, Tanisha. Glad you're here. Glad you're here. Doc Daniel. Hello, hello, hello. Alpha and Marcia or Marcia. Let me know which one is the correct pronunciation. But so glad you're here. I did ask that if you, I'll put it up here so everyone can read. We would really appreciate it because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions. If you could kindly put a Q in front of your question, that would just help identify because y'all get to chatting and all this other stuff. And then it just makes it really easy for me to find the questions. Hey, Ivory Lee, happy Sunday to you. Hey, Mocha Mosaic, how are you? How are you, girlfriend? Hey, hey, hey. Kay Stewart's in the house. Good afternoon. How are you? How are you? So, as y'all know, yes, Marcia. Okay, wasn't sure. Thank you, thank you. I like to pronounce people's names correctly because with a name like Krishan, you can only imagine. You can only imagine. Um, but I'm so sure that some of y'all have been on the journey with me for a long time, right? I created Blaxit Global in 2020, June of 2020. So this is our 3-year anniversary, right? Not the anniversary of the show, but the anniversary of Blaxit Global. And also my birthday month, a couple weeks away, will be Mama celebrating her 49th birthday. Yay, yay, yay. Um, so um, I have been on this journey, right? Interviewing and having these in depth conversations with empowering and inspiring Black expats. And you all have been rocking with me from some of you from season 1 to now I just finished season 5. And I believe it was season 2 was when I had my conversation with Shar Winter, who's the creator of the Expat app. And she was talking about her move to Portugal. And at that point, Portugal was not on my radar, right? When I started the show, I had been talking about New Zealand. Anybody who's been following me for more than a minute knows that ever since I was a little girl, I wanted to move to New Zealand. That was the first country I took my first solo trip in 2017, and also went in January of 2020 and right before lockdown. And so I was doing my scouting trips, like I was going all the way there with the plan. And then my daughter, who just had her senior prom on Friday, uh, told me at the time that she felt that New Zealand was going to be a bit too far, given the fact that, she's leaving the nest. And so I was like, okay, you know what? I'm glad you told me. I'm a reasonable mom. There's 195 countries, right? So let me get to exploring. And so when I had that conversation with Shar, that really put Portugal on the radar for me for the first time. And then I had been also following our rich journey, Aman and Christina, who are celebrating, I believe, this coming week, their 5-year YouTube anniversary, but they've been in Portugal now, I think a little bit over 3 years. And they talk about financial independence and retiring early. If you haven't followed their channel and journey, definitely check out their YouTube channel. They have a very inspiring journey. But I would always focus on the money videos, and I was always skipping over the Portugal videos. And I think it was maybe a year into the whole pandemic that I was out doing my walk, and I'm like, oh, you know what? I think I want to put Portugal on the list. And so I had Portugal on the list, Costa Rica, and Italy, right? Those were the three countries I was going to focus on because I figured, okay, easier way for me to get back to the East Coast. Need to see my kids or my mom who is in Florida. And that was really like the big, you know, must get back quick. So that's how I narrowed that. And because I had these great conversations, right, with guests that were in those countries. And I've talked about what happened in Costa Rica, affectionately, AKA Nosta Rica for me. And then in 2022, I have to think about my years now, right? 2022, I went to Portugal in April of last year, and spent 2 weeks and got to see Shar in person, got to see Heather of Black in Portugal and the ladies of Black in Portugal. And it confirmed that that's where I wanted to be. So, as y'all know, I came back recently, and a lot has happened. And so that's what we're going to get into. So, let me get back into these comments and then we'll get started. Okay. I see. Oh, thank you, Tanisha, for putting a Q in front. Hey, Vicky. Vicky's in the house. Hey, hey, hey. Yes, right. I'm excited about my birthday. It is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Hey, how you doing? Good to see you. Hey, Greta. Hey, Greta. Hello, 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 Patricia. Hey, in my travels. Good, good, good. So, this is yeah, so I did. I chose Lisbon. So you probably, some of you who have followed me, you've seen this video that I'm going to play for you. But I before I bring on our special guest today, I want to kind of set the stage. So y'all see me live. Y'all know I like to have fun. Anybody who I'm working with, right? Because Blaxit Global has this big listenership as well as our passport community, right? And we have about 9 or 10 members that are, including our friend Nicole here. Hey, hey, hey. That are moving to Portugal, right? So we have a Portugal accountability group. We have our big group, which is an accountability group, which is kind of like group coaching. So if you come in Passport, you're going to get a lot of love and support. And then we have members that are going to other places, right? And so we have wonderful time. We have a lot of fun, a lot of laughs. And so when I embarked on this journey and figuring out, okay, I'm in the States, I've got to secure all of this stuff in preparation for my D7 and, the visa application, for those of you who don't know what that is. I want it to be expansive. One, because I have a lot of moving parts in my life, as you can imagine. And then two, because people come and, they book time with me one-on-one, or they come in Passport. I kind of also have to have like a 50,000-foot view so that I can point people in the right direction, give them different tools and resources. But when I choose to work with someone, right, we've got to be able to vibe with the same energy. We have to be able to have fun, because if I am having fun, it doesn't feel like work, or it doesn't feel like an overwhelming thing. So I was very happy that I was able to connect with Colleen from Portugal the Place. And so I wanted to show you how well we vibe together before I bring her on. So I'm just going to add this. Hopefully you'll be able to hear it. Let's see.
Oh,
Let's see. Is it going to play? Let's see. Technology is a beautiful thing. If not, I'm going to bring her up and then we'll figure out how to add it. Let's see. I'm going to try and remove it. I had everything like queued up, but then I think I played around too much. We're going to try it one more time. And y'all tell me if you hear it. Okay. Let's see. Let's see.
so apartment number 2 of house hunting day 3.
Day 3. Thoughts? We are in
Lourdes? We're in Lourdes. It's a neighborhood outside of Lisboa, about 30 minutes from the city center.
Yes, nice location, a lot of nice shops. We got to sit in a cafe for a little bit before we went to see the place. 9th floor.
9th floor.
But pros, it had 2 elevators, even though it had stairs.
The building seemed well cared for.
Yes, very much so. Nice views.
No outdoor space.
No outdoor space. Nice layout, updated, except for one bathroom, which was, I think, kept as the original.
Yes. No AC.
No AC.
And it's warm today. Yes. It's not even as warm as yesterday. And you could feel it in you being all the way up at the top, and then because it had tons of light, it had all that sun coming in.
Exactly.
So pro in the winter,
but con in the summer.
Yes. So
no green space.
No green space, except for this little thing we're sitting by here. There's not
the 9th floor down.
Yeah. So
and the realtor from the first house just said that you got the house.
Oh my God, that's fantastic! Welcome to Portugal. Hey, who found her place in Portugal? Yeah, that is so awesome.
This is a raw and real.
So with that, I'm going to bring on Colleen Showalter from Portugal the Place.
Hi. Okay, that was fun.
I love that video so much.
I know, and they just got us. They totally didn't. We honestly, I had no idea that you'd been approved for the apartment, so that was so cool.
That was like our honest reaction, and so it was so much fun, and I appreciated that. Like I said, from day one when we started this journey, and we'll go into that. But I love your energy, and I'm so glad that you and I connected, and that we're having this conversation so that everybody can find out about the journey.
I'm excited. Thank you for having me here, and we had a blast. That was so much fun to go out and not only check out all the apartments, but also just dive into the neighborhoods in Lisboa. And the airplane thing. We had all kinds of fun. So.
Yes, I do have the other video, and I'll be showing them the other video.
Because there's such a difference between occasional planes from the flight path and relentless plane after plane after plane. I think their description needed some updating.
For sure. So I am, and I see the chat is like lighting up. So I know people are anxious to get into the questions. But before we do that, I wanted to set the stage and like you yourself, right? We're having this conversation. I'm back in the States doing my final packing. You are in Portugal.
Yes.
And so if you don't mind telling us a little bit about like your journey before you started Portugal.
Absolutely. So my husband and I have the company Portugal the Place, and we live on the Silver Coast in Alcobaça. So right in the center of Portugal, just a couple of minutes off the coast. So really great position. We're about an hour and 10 minutes from the Lisbon airport, or from you when you get here. But what's really wonderful is we have fallen head over heels for Portugal in a realistic way. It is a country that has delivered on lifestyle and experiences and opportunity while we're still navigating and learning at 3 years, the bureaucracy, the language, the things that you hear about that can be challenging. They're definitely part of your life, but the pros way outweigh the cons. So I'm here with my husband and my father, who's 85 years old, who decided to move with me. So that was quite a lift to pick up a senior and relocate them all the way around the world. And then also our daughter, who you met, Fiona, who was with us, who is 21 and going to school and kind of navigating her own, like building her life now that she lives abroad. And then our 120-pound Newfie Doodle named Dutch. So if anyone has questions about moving a dog, we didn't just move a dog, we moved like a bear. So
He's a big boy.
fluffy boy. So through all of this, we've just really embraced the change and settled into the concept that we're not going to feel comfortable all the time. And it's been incredible. And now with the company, we get to meet so many people. And the best part, hands down, of doing what we do is we get to re-experience the joy of moving to Portugal with people. And it just keeps it very alive, very vibrant. So
yeah. And I love how, and thank you for telling us your story, because there's so much there, right? It wasn't just like me, I'm an empty nester. You moved, you have like a multi-generational family. You also have a large dog. And then, and correct me if I'm wrong, like when you set out on the journey to leave the States and go to Portugal, did you have the intention of like creating a business, or is this something that was one of those things that are birthed when you're living in a new land?
This particular job and company was out of the obvious missing piece of support for this type of move. We both intended to work when we did move to Portugal. We didn't know what. My husband and I both come from a long careers in the travel and hospitality and project planning, kind of project management background. So for us, we had toyed around with, the normal things people talk about, like maybe a bed and breakfast or maybe, some Airbnbs or something. But when we got here, we saw that there was just a gap between like the lawyers and the immigration people and the real estate agents and those folks. There's like this kind of lacking of information. You can't go on a website of a city, for example, and just go in and click on their relocation information like you do in the States. There's a lot of that just isn't available. And as you've experienced, and those of you that are online right now who are either in Portugal or have made your visit, Portugal doesn't show as well online. Like the cities and the neighborhoods and the vibrancy and the feel. There's other countries that I feel like present in a more positive light when you look them up. You can find so much information. People have gone so many times. Here, especially if you want to get out of Lisbon or Porto, for example, very, very hard to get the feel for a place by just looking online. So that's one of the reasons that we got started on this.
Oh, that's great, because so many people think of Portugal, they think of Lisbon only, or they think of Porto, or they think of the Algarve, right? But there's a whole lot in between.
Yeah, exactly. So it just became a matter of realizing that we wanted to be part of doing something that really changed people's lives. It's very rewarding.
Yeah. And we've had several questions or time together, and you answered my questions before. I made the trip in, what was it, late April, because I came back May 1st. And, for us, and I loved your approach because you really wanted to understand, where I am in the journey and then what I was looking for. Because, it's like I have an empty nest, but I have children that I hope will come visit their mother. Right. I have this platform with all these wonderful people that are watching us live or on the replay and the podcast and all that stuff. And so, for me, in terms of my living space, right, in addition to I have a dog, but much smaller, for me, my wish list was I needed to at least have a 2-bedroom, a T2. Mm-hmm. And I had an aggressive timeline because I already had an appointment at the DC VFS. And it was important for me to have like a studio or if possible, an extra room for the kids and a place that would allow for the dog. But outside of that, right, like for me, it was really making sure I had outdoor space, and we'll get into some of the other challenges maybe as I start to show the other video. But I really loved that you were able to like listen to what my needs were and then kind of help narrow the universe in terms of, like you said, it's a small country, but there's a lot of terrain. And so where is it that I would feel the most comfortable?
There's a lot of variety. And also there's two things that I like live by with the work we do. One is you can vacation almost anywhere, but living somewhere is completely different. So those, people will be like, oh, I went here on a holiday, or myself, I've gone to France, and just imagine, like living in France would be very different than my week at an Airbnb in the south of France. I mean, I don't have that budget that Airbnb has. So, you have to get into that part. But then also I like to ask, and I think we talked about this, what do you want your life to be like a year after you've settled in and all the newness is worn off and you've had a chance to kind of get into the groove of your neighborhood, you're out, you're doing your things, and you're now imagine like what that life looks like. Because for a lot of folks, they're going to change everything, not just their address or their country. They're going to stop working the way they always did. They're going to look at life through a different time frame. Like you don't have to get up and commute and leave the house by 7. And so we need to have that kind of conversation about what would your life be like if you weren't doing these things, and how will that affect where you want to live? So that's a lot of just kind of getting past the excitement part and getting into the nitty gritty.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because it's like, you're right, when the patina wears off, right? Or you hit an inevitable roadblock of whatever sort, right?
Oh, totally. Like I wanted Tex-Mex so bad the other day. Like I could literally taste the like street tacos, because Oregon, I'm from Portland, and street food trucks is like a massive thing in Portland. And there was these chicken tacos with cilantro and the whole bit, and I just had this moment where I was like, I just want a taco. So it happens.
Yeah, you're gonna have a roadblock, and then you have to really be clear on your why, because it's going to get you on those days where you might want something like a taco. So we're gonna get into some of these questions. So Tanisha asked, does Portugal the Place help find apartments, house for rent, or buy all over Portugal, or just certain cities?
The whole entire country of Portugal, just not the islands. We don't do Madeira or the Azores, but the whole country of Portugal, absolutely. And we have been in the most rural parts of Portugal, and of course, right in the middle of the metropolitan cities. So, there's no part of Portugal that we haven't been working to help folks with.
Wow! Oh my goodness! Yeah, and getting on those highways.
The small roads in the Douro are probably the ones. I think my hands still might be a little bent this way from holding onto the steering wheel, driving on the like really narrow roads in the Douro. That was probably the most invigorating areas.
That's a nice way to put it, because when I was in Porto last year and I went to get my hair braided, and I was trying to get back to my Airbnb, and the driver was following the GPS, and then it took him down this road, and those narrow, it started like this.
Yeah.
And he kept driving, and I'm like, I don't think this car is going to go much further. And sure enough, we got wedged.
I remember you telling me about that.
And I was like, oh dear God, I've never had that happen before.
Didn't you tell me that story when we got stuck in the garage?
Yes, we got stuck in the garage. Yeah, so folks.
It's a real thing.
It is a real thing. One of the times, there were multiple times where we bonded. But it was like, how many people does it take to get a car out of an underground garage in Lisbon? Let's see.
You feel like you're in a video game, because every sensor in the car is just going crazy, like beep, 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 and you're like, oh my God, yeah, we did it.
Fiona's jumping out of the car, pushing buttons. Alex is like, Colleen, I don't know. She's like trying to navigate these. We're in a parking garage, and underneath parking, poor Colleen's trying to figure out how to navigate this sharp turn. We're like, are there monitors? Can someone see that we're in distress? Like,
I thought for sure, like it was the idea that I liked it when Alex just threw up his hands. He was like, well, we can't get out.
Like, why are there? And then when you finally got it up the hill,
The
then
motorcycle.
the motorcycle.
So yeah, parking. We digress, but yes,
I know. But see, I told y'all, if we're working together, we got to be able to have fun. And so we were laughing the whole time.
It was a team effort for sure.
It was. So Mocha Mosaic asked, is there something similar to the open house concept for apartments in the Lisbon, Lisboa area and Porto regions?
Not really. Occasionally, someone might get very aggressive or have kind of that style. And usually that would be maybe an American or a British person that was planning on renting or selling their place. But as far as buildings that have either a model or where they open up one for you to go through, that's not common. In fact, I haven't seen that at all in any regular space. What they will do occasionally is schedule appointments. So they'll tell you that the apartment is coming available, and on Saturday at 9:00, from 9:00 to 2, they'll show the apartments. And then you get in line and you just go in, and there's 20, 30, 40 other people lined up to see that apartment. But it's not so much an open house. You can't just like go and walk around. You have to, on those, you have to be qualified. You have to already send all your paperwork in and then show and be shown the apartment at a specific time. But they don't do for sale or for rent. They don't have that open house concept here.
Wow. And that's also a good thing, because I know a lot of people, want to, although I don't advise this for Portugal, want to try to do the DIY. And one of the reasons why I say and kind of shy people away from it is because closing down your life in one country and then reestablishing it in another country can be challenging, and it can be overwhelming, and especially depending on how many moving parts you have, right, in your life. And so for me, and I talked about it at the close of the season of the show, I learned in this season of life, I need to delegate and get things off of my plate. And what I heard from what you said is like, there's nuances and differences that we're not accustomed to in the States, that if you do that in another country, it can be, if you don't know, you might be put off by it, right? Or get overwhelmed. And so the benefit of having, someone like Portugal the Place, it to shepherd you through that is, one, there's also a language barrier, but also there's just cultural nuances and differences that, in addition to finding the right place, it's just one less thing that you have to worry about.
Yes. And, the idea of DIY, there are some folks that that's their comfort zone. There's a lid for every pot. But I also understand that for a lot of folks, you don't know what you don't know when you're coming over here. And I've said laughingly a couple of times that we should have named the company Just Don't Do What We Did. A lot of what we've learned has been through, being here, experiencing it, and realizing that if someone would have been available to tell us these things, we would have had a smoother landing. It would have been an easier experience. And each region is different. The Algarve, for example, occasionally will have a new build that one builder might decide to build one apartment and do like a model. But that's because it's so influenced by the expat communities moving there that they kind of try this. But in general, you go online and you can't tell. A lot of times they leave the ads up that are still rented. Like they'll leave the ad up just so that somebody will call. You may have realtors that don't have any experience with the international community and the requirements for the registered lease, for the visa. There's a lot of pieces that we are looking at from the angle of like, how do we keep you from stumbling into something that's going to cause you a really big problem while you're doing a lot of different things. So whether you hire an immigration attorney, a relocation company, whomever it is, having trusted partners that are walking through and making sure that you're not missing something is really important to helping you just feel confident that you're moving through this process as easily as possible. And having an ear, when also, it's weird because I feel like I have a therapist position a lot of times, because sometimes it's just a phone call and being like, okay, what's going on? And everything becomes really big. and all the problems to you, because you haven't done it before, feel insurmountable. But for me, whether we experienced it or one of our hundreds of clients have experienced it, I can usually be like, oh, no. It's okay. This isn't unusual. Yes, you need to register your children now, but okay, you missed the deadline. Let's get you to this next step. There are a lot of things that an individual might be experiencing that we collectively have seen before, and we can just kind of talk them off the walls. So it's also not being alone in this
world. Indeed. I think this one's for me, Mocha Mosaic. Sean, why'd you choose Lisbon, more specifically the neighborhood you secured your flat in, opposed to Lisbon neighborhoods or regions and cities in Portugal? Great question. So that is okay. So when I went to Portugal the first time, which was 2022, I stayed in Lisbon for a week, and I was across from Parque Eduardo, which is a beautiful park that I'm obsessed with. And I did go this past time too, because I'm just so obsessed with that park. So, and then I stayed 3 days in Porto and 3 days, I think 3 or 4 days in Belém. And then I also visited Sintra, Cascais, and I feel like, and Nazaré. And so for a while, for a good year, I was in Colleen. You remember, I think when we first had the conversation, I was torn. Do I want to be on the Silver Coast because I love the beach? Or did I want to be in Lisbon or close to the Lisbon area? And I kept going back and forth. And one of the reasons why I narrowed the universe to the Lisbon area is because I'm an introvert by nature, and I do it so well. And what I want in this next chapter, in this next stage of my life, I'll always be an introvert. But what I'm questioning is when I'm in other countries, I do things that I don't normally do in the States, right? I don't know how to swim. And I've gone kayaking. I've gone stand-up paddleboarding. I've hiked a volcano. I'm afraid of heights. I've zip lined across the forest, right? So I'm challenging even my own perceptions of what I have known myself to be. And so for me, while I still identify as an introvert, maybe I'm an ambivert, who knows? But for me, I want to be more social. I want to have things that pull me out of the house, out of my comfort zone. Hence the reason why I'm going to a country where I'm learning a new language, right? And bringing a dog. So everything is going to be unfamiliar to me. But one thing that I did discover, not only in my initial visit to Portugal, but also this one is, and Colleen and I, we went all over. I kept getting pulled back to Lisbon, right? And that kept feeling right. And so the way I kind of made sense in my mind, at least for the first 2, maybe 3 years, I feel like I want to be in the Lisbon area. We have Black in Portugal, Our Black Utopia, Shar in the expat app, and all the surrounding, communities, and also the local people that we've met and I've met. That feels very, very much like home, right? And home, and not in the home which is familiar for me where I live in the States, but a feeling that I'm feeling welcomed, right? And I also know that the Silver Coast is calling me. That didn't go away. And so I can see myself at some point veering from that in the journey. But at least for right now, I feel like myself and the dog are going to be most happiest in the Lisbon area. Cool. All right. That was a great question.
That is great. And you have time. That's the thing, is we don't know what's coming around the corner, right? We only do the best with the knowledge we have now, and starting somewhere that is going to be the right place now. Again, 2-3 years from now, who knows? But I think it's really important to give yourself some familiarity along with pushing your boundaries when you're making such a big change, for sure.
Yes. And also I forgot, I'm not, because we've had this conversation, I didn't want a car, right? I want to be
walking. And the airport, you're going to be traveling. And so having
I'm gonna be traveling. Colleen was like, "Well, with you, what you do, I think you're gonna need to be." And you were even like helping me kind of think a little bit broader too, given like the nuances of my lifestyle and then what I do. Vicky said, "Congratulations!" Oh, thank you. Everybody, I love all the well wishes.
Oh, that is so great.
This has been such a journey indeed. And I love the fact that I've been able to take y'all. It feels like I've taken y'all along on the ride with me on this. I think we answered that one. And then actually, yeah, let's go to this one. Colleen, what was the catalyst for you and your family to move?
Well, it was really personal. We also had that 2020 moment with lockdown and everything that made us think that the position that I had, the corporate grind that I was in, went away, and it really gave us pause. And my husband and I basically went to him and said, "What if we sold everything we owned and decided not to do what we've been doing and move to Portugal?" And he basically said yes, I think, because he thought it'd give me something to do. But it was definitely important. But really what drove that, and, Krishan, we've talked about this, is our daughter. Fiona was a big part of this. Fiona is African American and Korean and identifies as LGBTQ. We were going through everything with her that I don't think I need to tell a single person that's watching this what was happening to our daughter, who at the time was 17, old. We were in the thick of it. And as adoptive parents that are white people in the whitest state in the Union, watching her get singled out and targeted and her life being really challenging, combined with the gun violence, and she'd been on a lockdown and we had the phone call, we were just like, what can we do differently and how can we do it differently? And it wasn't without challenges. We're not wealthy people. We didn't have stores and stores of money, but we needed to make a change. And so it's kind of rimp off the Band-Aid, put your money where your mouth is. If you're going to, you can't just complain all the time. You have to do something.
Yeah.
So we did. And then to get Fiona over here and to have her with us and to live in a place where you don't know, for any of you that aren't here yet, you don't know what it feels like to be like 2 years later and realize you're not scared when you walk into a mall and you think you have to look for the exits. You don't worry about your daughter. Our daughter's 21 now. She's out and about and she's doing her thing and she's being a full-on adult 21-year-old, carnival and going out and partying and doing the things she should be doing at this age. Yeah. And I don't have the cold sweats and staring at the clock, waiting for the phone call and worrying, just to the point of distraction. She's able to live her best life. And the best thing about it, and she laughs about this all the time. You can see me. I mean, I'm almost like a negative in the thing. I'm so I stick out in Portugal. Mm-hmm. Best experience for me is to be the one uncomfortable and to be the one that is obviously not from around here. Fiona blends in just beautifully because this is such an amazing place, and she's living a life where no one's paying attention to her at all, which is exactly where she should be. And then she teases me about the fact she's like, "Oh, no one thinks you're Portuguese. They think I am." So it's been life affirming for our family. And the biggest moment I knew that this was the right thing for us is Fiona and I went swimsuit shopping. And that's tough for women in general, no matter what. And we're in the store and we hadn't said a word to the people that were there. And we're getting suits and we're in the changing room. And the woman came in and she said, "Here's another suit for your daughter." And it was the first time in our entire life together that anyone assumed she was my daughter.
Wow.
And it's everything. I mean, it's just everything. So for us, it's been a chance for us to have a real family and to take some of those exterior pressures off and just be together.
Yeah. Yeah. And she, I can attest that Fiona is thriving. I didn't see the before, but I get to see the now. I'm not even going to say the after, the now. And she's vibrant. And I mean, we still, like we had a video chat the other day and just like, you can tell that she's happy. You can tell that she's happy and she's at peace.
Yeah, she is. I mean, it's a journey. She's 21. She's got a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of
She's
things, but
already waiting for me to get my kids over there so they can go party.
exactly. But it's so for us, moving was a chance to write a new chapter for all of us, including my father, who's 85. He said he didn't want to spend his last chapter in a recliner watching NCIS. And so, now he walks every day, he goes out, he has his own friends. It's like he de-aged. So it's
Wow.
been a really great experience for us personally.
Oh my goodness. That I gotta let that sink in because I may have to have a conversation with my mother who's turning 82 and grappled with like, oh, do I make the switch for her? And we'll probably have to circle back on that because I'm sure that resonates with a lot of people that are in this kind of like sandwich generation, right? And just dealing with how do you navigate that. So that is so important. Thank you for sharing, that. So Greta wants to know, is it challenging to find apartments with an elevator?
Yes and no. Location. So it really depends on where you're interested in searching, but we don't have difficulty finding in most places. If you get into a really classic neighborhood like the Alfama, for example, in Lisboa, you're going to struggle for an elevator. But and the same with the Ribeiro and Porto. If you want to be like in those sections, those buildings are old, and in many cases they are just not going to have an elevator. But if you're looking for more of a typical apartment building that's been modernized or new builds or any of that, then it's not that difficult to find an elevator. It really is about what you want and where you want to physically be in whatever city you've chosen.
And also I would add to that is think about the concept of elevator, right? Like don't think about US elevators. Cut that in half.
That's when we got very friendly very quickly because
I'll show them that video about, we'll show you a little elevator action. Let's put it that way in a little bit. you get to know, you want to make sure everything's good when you get into an elevator. So Tunisia said, do you help or give recommendations to buy a car once a person moved to Portugal?
Absolutely. So we are all, we were just talking before the live started, when you retain our services, which we have different ways of helping folks purchase, rental, location scouting if you've never been here. But when you have our service, it arcs not just from your property, but all the other things you need to figure out: insurance, healthcare, working on buying a car, getting your kids registered for school, helping get the pets relocated, moving your stuff. All of that is part of what we do. So again, once you get us and you hire us, you're kind of stuck with us. There's a team of 16 people that work on your behalf, and each person has different specialties. Half our team is Portuguese, so we have people that speak fluent Portuguese on your behalf. We have American perspectives. So we're all in there working together to help you arrive. So buying a car, whether it's used or new, that's absolutely something we can help with.
Awesome. And Muka Mosaic, what other regions, cities, aside from Lisboa or Porto, have ample public transportation? Wow, I don't even know the answer to that one.
That's a great question, because to me, ample means that you have diversity in your choices of transportation. Lisboa and Porto are the only two that have a developed subway / like light rail system with trams and things. So if you want to have absolute freedom without a car and you want multiple choices of transportation, Lisboa and Porto really are your best bets. But when you take a step from that level to the next level, Coimbra, the Algarve, Leiria on the Silver Coast, there's some far-flung areas too, Bragança, for example. These places have really, really great bus systems. They have train systems that will take you to certain destinations, and they have accessibility to a variety. They still have like Bolt and, taxis and all of those things. The biggest thing to understand in Portugal is that bus transportation across the country is robust, and these are beautiful coaches. They have bathrooms on them. They're tricked out. People use buses here as a regular form of transportation, and they're really affordable. Fiona and Raven are going to Rolling Loud in the Algarve from where
Nice.
so they're going from the Silver Coast all the way to the Algarve. So that's about a 4.5 hour bus ride. And it's 25 euros a person for them to go there. So that in perspective, and it's a beautiful coach and everything. That's to give you an idea of transportation. But if you're looking for a place where you can truly be, with a variety of options, Lisboa and Porto are your only ones with the subway and light rail kind of experience. Everybody else then goes to bus and like distance trains.
Oh yeah, and because we went to Stubble, and then I know we also went over the bridge, right? That was my first time going over the bridge and kind of seeing all that. I took the ferry during my time there this past time, but it's good to kind of hear that it's easy to get around because I plan on making good use of my time there.
Yeah, the buses are great. They really, really are dependable too. The one thing that I've been really surprised by, and this isn't meant to be any kind of, Portugal has a different interpretation of time, as we all know. Maybe their idea of being on time or whatever is slightly different than what we're used to. I'm one of those people that I'm late if I'm not 15 minutes early. So, it's taken me a bit to breathe and be like, okay, we can do this. But the buses and the trains, they are on point. They are on time and their schedules are very predictable. I've traveled with bus and train in other countries, Italy, for example, where it's more of a suggested time as opposed to exact. That's not the case here. So if you were looking to go car free, you can do it and have dependability of the schedule.
Yeah, I took the train when I was there in 2022 from Lisbon to Porto, and the ride was just amazing.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It was so beautiful. I was like relaxed. And then when I went to Nazaré, I took the bus and it was easy to navigate. Like I think I took an Uber to the bus station in the zoological. I think that was where I caught it and then did the ride. It was like a little over an hour. Perfect. And affordable, super affordable.
Really affordable.
All right, let's see what we got here. Given that open houses aren't a thing, what suggestion do you have for someone interested in staying what a T0 to T2 flat really look like in person, but the actual move is well over a year out? Okay, I have my thoughts on that one, but go ahead, Colleen.
It's tricky. It is tricky because here, one of the processes I think that could be helpful to understand is real estate in general is handled very differently. The owners, for example, keep the keys in most cases, and then you need to make an appointment with a real estate agent, and then they need to arrange a time for you to go see the property, whether it's vacant or occupied. Because unlike in the States where they have lock boxes and all they have to do is just put a code, that's not the case. So that changes the ability. So we have this question asked of us a lot with people that do location scouting. They come over, they're not ready to move yet. They're looking at locations. They're like, can't we just get inside of an apartment? Can't we just go and take a look with the realtors? It's not the same here. That approach, the relationship approach with realtors and property management companies have with the properties, it's really about making sure the person's ready, that if they're going to take that time and schedule that appointment and take the realtor out there, they want to make sure that person's ready to lease that property or purchase that property when they go visit. Occasionally you can get, it's a really great way if you're coming over and you're connecting in groups, is connecting with someone that you might have coffee with or get to know that might be willing or have a property that's turning over that's like a private party. And then you can go and make an appointment to take a look at it. But in general, you're going to have struggles to get a real estate agent to schedule it if you're not ready to actually make an offer. Just with the way that they have to, it can take 72 hours to get an appointment set, for example. So it's a little bit of work that the owners get a little, shall we say, cranky if they're bringing people there that aren't intending to do some type of transaction.
Yeah, and I can attest to that. In 2022, again, not knowing, right? Fish out of water. And I was like, oh, maybe I want to talk to a couple of realtors, but look, Portugal is growing in popularity, right? So they are busy and they're trying to make money. And but what I did do, and it was fortuitous when I think about it, is I stayed and mentioned the cities and towns that I had stayed in 2022. Each place I stayed at a T0. And then, well, the first one was in Lisbon. I was there for a week. So that was a T2. And then I went to Porto, and that was a T0. And then when I returned and went to Belém, and that was a T1. So that helped me spatially understand what it was, as I'm a visual learner, one. And then two, right? Europe is on the metric system. So square feet, like it was just too hard for me to conceptualize. So being in the space kind of gave me, okay, what feels like I'm enjoying? Like, is this too much room? Is this not enough room? Like, can I envision myself with the dog and all the things that I had working? So I knew it was like, okay, it's T0. While it was beautiful, and actually one of our members is staying at the flat that I stayed at. I think she's staying next month. And, it was able to kind of see what's going to feel right for my lifestyle. So that was a great way. And I would suggest, an Airbnb or short-term rental, especially if you're staying at different cities, maybe try different sizes. The other thing I'll say is community. And that's where plugging in to community is so important, because I met people, in advance. And of course, I have the benefit of this platform, but the people that I would meet when I was in Portugal, and they were all expats from different parts. They were kind enough to let me, go to their flat and show me around, like, oh, this is what I have, and this is the view, and here's some of the challenges. And so not only did I have the places that I had, rented, but I got the ability to go into other people's places and kind of see, like, okay, the age of the building. Okay, this one is like a new, or this one's renovated. Oh, this one faces the water. Like, what is going to feel right to me will
Right.
also help you, especially if you are, because this was last year, right? So if you're that far out, I would say make sure you get plugged into community, because that can help you solve that problem as well.
And a couple of things to piggyback on that. If you're doing the Airbnb bit to get a feel for what it's like to live in Portugal, it's really important to not take the Airbnbs that are in the historic centers or in the really touristy areas. If you really want to try to get an Airbnb that gives you the taste of what a traditional, typical T1 is, go for the less impressive looking one online that's in maybe a quieter neighborhood some blocks away from where you want to go visit, and then experience the public transportation, experience a basic apartment that doesn't have all the bells and whistles, where maybe it's not grabbing your attention so much online. But when you get there, when you move here, more than likely the place that you will end up with is not going to feel like the Airbnbs you rent with the 30-foot ceilings and the finishes and the beautiful curtains. And all of us, I at least feel like there's so many of us that moved to Europe with this idea of French doors that open and
in the wind, just like
the wind, and your hair looks really good, and all of that. Like it's a little less than that. And so it's important. I think you can get sucked into this idea that you're going to live like you live in these Airbnbs. And in most cases, most of us living here are not in that type of property. And on the other side as well, when we location scout with folks, we have so many clients now that are all across the country. A lot of times we'll catch up with them when we have a client in town and we go to coffee, and then they say, yeah, stop by, come see my place, that kind of thing. So to your point, community and seeing how we're really living our lives here is really helpful.
Absolutely. And then Jacque, beautiful name, says, where would you say are the areas for young families? Ooh.
Well, that's a great question. And that's a loaded question, because every family has different needs. But as far as young families moving to Portugal, you don't have to stick to just the major metropolitan areas. Lisboa and Porto, of course, have all the amenities. They have a lot of schools choices, but they're large cities. And Lisboa, for example, has 21 tourists to every local. And that's something you want to take into consideration, depending on how your own lifestyle and how you feel about, crowds and things like that. But if you're looking for maybe another like a calmer level, like you want to step down a bit from that kind of impactful crunch of humanity, you can choose a variety of cities, including cities such as Caldas that's on the Silver Coast, that has private school options. It has more for teenagers, like the Brave Generations Academy. You have different school, you have international schools on the Silver Coast, but it's a more mellow pace of life. Now that we have the digital nomad visa that's available and people can work from home, really your options are endless. We have clients with young families living in beautiful rural parts of Portugal, but they're still 45 minutes from Lisboa. We have families that have chosen cities such as Coimbra, which Coimbra has amazing vibe. It's got some great options for families, tons of schools, but the price point for a larger city is less than either Porto or Lisboa. And it is the only city in between Lisbon and Porto that is connected via the high-speed train. So you can hop on a train and go to Lisboa or Porto without stopping in between. So it's really convenient when you're looking for life. So lots of options for young families, and really depends on your lifestyle.
Yes, yes, for sure. Let's see. Vicky asks, Colleen, could you say a little bit about the process of getting, I knew the dog was going to come up, I told you, and I hear mine, about getting your large dog to Portugal. Are there other options to transporting a large senior dog other than cargo hold?
Yeah, we were chatting about this. Hands down, moving the dog was the most expensive part of the process. It is not easy to move a large dog. So I just want to kind of put that out there. And large is relative. We had to have a special kennel built for Dutch because he's 6 foot long from the tip of his tail to the tip of his nose. And the rules for the kennels, they have to be able to stand up and turn around and have a foot on the top and on each end between the dog. They don't make an airline approved plastic style kennel for his size. So we actually had to have one built. Oh my gosh, I said his name and he just walked in.
And I hear mine kind of pulling.
Yeah, hello, Dutch. But the options now for folks, there are really just 3, truly. You have cargo, where you try to get yourself to the point where you can get to a nonstop flight and get as close as you can so that it's as short of an impact and journey as possible. You have the private charter jet services, which now there's groups on Facebook you can go into that are putting out that they're going to travel. There's going to be a chartered flight on X time, and there's 12 spaces available, that type of thing. It's spendy, but you're taking away that anxiety of putting your dog in the cargo hold. The dog gets to be in the plane with you, sitting right on the floor in front of you. So that's a completely different experience. And then you do have the transatlantic ship option, but those take long. It's a long time. It's expensive. It has a waiting list, and the dogs are still in a kennel. They don't just get to come and live with you in your cabin and go for 3 days hanging out on a cruise ship. No buffet for them. They have to stay in a designated area. So when it comes to moving a large dog, and this is from personal experience, you will have to weigh 2 things: your financial ability to make the investment in a more expensive means like the charter or the cruise ship, or you'll need to get to a point where you can go have your dog go in cargo. The holds are, they're climate controlled, and they're as good as they can possibly be. They're not like back with the luggage, but I mean, it's still traumatic for the dogs. But here's the one thing: if you are bringing a dog through cargo, you also have to time it with the temperature, because the airlines have very specific rules about when you can fly with your animal. And if it gets, I believe, over 85 degrees on the tarmac, they will not take the dog, period. So you really want to, if you have a large dog or a dog with health issues or anything that you feel is going to be impactful to the dog, you want to time your move to Portugal in the, like fall, winter, and early spring, before the temperatures start to go up and perhaps affect their ability to travel.
Yeah, because I bought our ticket, I think it was Thursday or Friday. And just to, I did the same thing, kind of looked, except for the cruise ship. I didn't look at that option, but I looked at a private jet, and that was getting up there. That was like more. That was a lot of money. And then I looked at the airlines, and also for me, where I am, I have the benefit of flying out of Newark. So Newark to Lisbon, especially if you get, a nice tailwind, can be about 6.5 hours, right? And so I said, okay, I'll leave out of Jersey instead of trying to navigate it through Florida. But then also my airline consideration set shrunk because United wasn't taking dogs, but Lufthansa would, but it would only be on a Lufthansa flight from
Right.
end to end, not serviced by another airline. So I did a lot of like phone calls, like, okay, who's servicing the flight and making sure. And so I ended up choosing TAP Portugal and booked my flight and then booked Bailey and added her to the fare. And they asked me, like, what are the dimensions and all of those other things. But I'm also doing a night flight so that, to your point about the time of year as well as the temperature, we're doing a night flight. So we will be the first flight into Lisbon. I think we arrive at like 5:45 a.m., 6 a.m. ish, and do all the whole vet protocol. But it was out of concern, right? It'll be her first time flying. My anxiety about her not being in close proximity, but when you are a pet parent and you're trying to navigate, a whole life move, these are part of the things that, it's not just the going from point A to point B, it's everything in between.
Well, it's really important to remember when you're with the moving of the pet and you're looking at all of these options. It is expensive, but it is a one-time moving expense to bring your animal. The biggest thing though, there's a huge tip, and I've seen this happen now too many times to my clients, so I just feel like I have to keep saying this. When you book your reservation, and Krishan, I encourage you to go back and get this if you haven't gotten it, make sure you print and keep track of exactly who you talked to when you made that reservation for the animal. Because each reservation, each plane only has so much space for each animal. They only will take so many on the plane. So cats, dogs, whatever that are in the cargo, that's it. So we have had clients that have booked, had it attached to their ticket, had everything done, and then they do like an equipment change somewhere and you don't catch it. And then you show up at the airport and they're like, oh, we changed the plane. Now it only takes 4 animals instead of 6 or something like that. And if you don't have the trackable, I booked this, I took care of this, I talked to this person, I confirmed it, blah, 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 you may be at jeopardy for being one of the people that they say they won't bring the animal.
Oh my gosh.
There's a lot of nuances with the pets, and equipment change is one of those things. You have to be relentless once you buy your plane ticket. So I'm warning you now.
Thank you.
Watch those equipment pieces. Keep pulling up your reservation. Look for any of those notifications that say equipment change, because that can affect the cargo size for the animal.
Wow. Oh my gosh, I had no idea. Wow. Thank you. Let's see. Okay, Renee. Sorry in advance if you cover this. How far in advance do you suggest you need help? Do you suggest like connecting? She needs help with her transition.
Well, we have 2 scenarios. We have the people that call us 6 weeks before they need to get here, and we can still help. It's just a lot more of like, okay, let's get you in order and get going. But we really recommend 6 months. 6 months is the time frame that can give us a chance to get to know you, understand your needs, work together to meet your financial goals, and really give you the support that you need. We have folks that are booked out 2 years with us that come in and they do location scouting first, and then they go back and then they decide where they want to stay, and then they buy a house or they rent a place, so we have the planners that need to have years, and then we have the people like, I'm going now. And so we help those too. But 6 months is a sweet spot. That's a really great place for us to be able to really help you with the planning process back in the States as well as here in Portugal.
And I will say, I see a couple of questions that are related more to the visa process. We won't go into that this conversation, but next Saturday, We have Sandra Gomes Pinto, who is an attorney. She was on our channel a few weeks ago. We're going to go specifically into the D7 and the D8 and the NHR next Saturday at 2 p.m. So hold those questions for next Saturday. So don't be offended if I skip over those. It's just that I think you would prefer to hear that from an attorney.
What we're going to hear from me is, this is what I know, but you should hear it from an attorney.
Yeah, like an attorney who lives in Portugal who can tell you that. I think
there are two places we do not give advice. That is immigration attorney law and taxes. Nope, not happening.
Yep, so a couple of those questions. So we will not be covering those questions. Save those for next week. Sandra will be the one to answer those. So this one is about the strikes. I've been seeing a lot about the strikes.
So it's funny because I flew to Scotland during one of the airport strikes where SEF was supposed to be on strike. And in my true planning manner, I made my husband get there like hours in advance, and we had like snacks, and we were going to be in line, man. There was nothing, like nothing had happened. And then there are days when we don't get any announcement, and I hear from my clients that they've been backed up for ever through the border control. The train strikes are announced. You find out in advance. They don't allow you to have a strike here that isn't planned, so you get a lot of notice. So it really hasn't been that impactful for our clients or our friends, any of us that are traveling around here. The one thing you do realize is that you follow the notifications on your SMS. You can get text. You follow the news. There's a lot of different outlets. And as long as you just keep up with what's going on, you're fine. If the trains go on strike, the buses are working. The buses go on strike, the trains are working. I mean, it's so far I haven't been here when the whole entire country has gone on strike and nothing has been working. But it isn't as often as it feels like lately we've heard a lot of like chatter about all these strikes, but it hasn't impacted any of us that have been living our lives here. I know Lisbon occasionally feels it more because of if you're a commuter on a daily basis and you need to use to go to work, that would change things. But for those of us that are living in a different lifestyle, it's just kind of a workaround if you do run into it.
Mm-hmm. We did have, I remember when I was there and we were together, was it the construction we had to navigate? We were having lunch and you pointed to the TV and there was like this big red zone all over exactly where we had to go.
Yeah, it wasn't construction. They decided all of a sudden they were like, oh, we don't want any cars down here anymore. So therefore, remember and then they thought because my car had writing on it that I was an Uber or a taxi.
Yes. And then he let us go. I was like, what?
And Alex was just like, just go. Don't say anything. Just go. And I was like, okay. So we managed.
Yes, and I see Alex is in the chat. Hey, Alex.
Was he in the chat?
Yes, he's here. Hey, Alex.
Gosh darn it, we can't tell any stories about him.
I know. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Okay. Yes, so I'm going to skip over anything related to the visas, except for, I'm not going to touch those today because we're going to save those for Sandra. So keep track of them, copy them, put it in a doc, and definitely ask when Sandra's here because you definitely want to hear that from an attorney. Let's see. So Greta wants to know about... Let's see, the rail expansion is a speed train expansion. I did not know this.
It's in planning.
Oh, okay. Cool. All right.
There's not really any timeline on it, but it's being discussed and it's in planning. We hear different versions occasionally of kind of the timeline, but it's definitely being discussed.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And then Tanisha, can you find an apartment with a washer, dryer, and elevator?
Yes-ish. So first off, budget is everything. So budget is everything. But let's say that you have a typical budget for someone wanting to move to Lisbon. So if you wanted to find a place with 2 bedrooms and be in one of the more community neighborhoods, a little outside of the center, and you had around $1,500 a month, give or take somewhere in there, it would be realistic to find an apartment that had an elevator and a washing machine. A dryer in Portugal is an unusual thing to find. You might get a dryer washing machine combo, which is an extractor. That's where it'll extract. It's not a hot air dryer. It's a different system, and it will dry your clothes to a point. But the idea of finding standalone or stacked washer dryer in an apartment, especially in the urban area like Lisbon, where every square centimeter, I should say, is accounted for, the dryer will be tough. The flip side is I thought it was going to be terrible to be without a dryer. I was like, oh no, we have a dryer, we don't use it. The cost of electricity here is expensive. It is one of the more expensive pieces of living here. And the temperature is great. We hang out our clothes. The quality of your clothes lasts longer when you don't dry them. And you get used to the cadence. It's not as intimidating as you would think. Getting your clothes washed and dried here isn't a big lift without a dryer. And even in apartments, like you saw, Krishan, we were in places, there's always a spot, some way to hang out your laundry. I mean, the 9th floor hanging over the parking garage. We were thinking about if you're delicate, if it ended up on the roof of a car below, but there's always a spot. But in general, most folks are working through the process of not having a dryer.
Yeah, and it's not as bad because the first time I ever was in a country, and I remember I was in New Zealand and I had clothes I needed to wash, and I was looking for the dryer, and my Airbnb host was like, oh no, we just hang them on the clothesline. I'm like, and I'm from New York City, right? So I'm just like, what? So she's like, oh yeah, like 2 hours, it'll be dry. And she put it up, and I came out, sure enough, they were dry and it was fine. So I was like, oh, okay, fine. So fast forward to when my cousin and I went to New Zealand when I went on my second scouting trip. This time we were further south in Wellington, New Zealand, and it was very windy. I didn't know Wellington is that windy. It's the most south that you can get of the North Island before you cross over to the South Island. So, it's like the wind is howling. That's how windy it is. It's just naturally windy. So she had to do laundry, and we hung it out. And then we went out about our business. And the next day, like, her bathing suit was gone. We never found a bathing suit. We never found like a bra. It was, the wind just blew it away.
Some farmer has it like across his tractor.
Some dogs walking around like on his eye. I don't know. We never found it. And then last year, if somebody saw that IG live, I think it was on the incident when I was talking. Oh no, it was our live with my live with Lynette, and I was in Porto and she was in Lisbon, and I had started a load in the washing machine, and it had an extractor, but I didn't know that's what it was called. I was just thinking like a combo washer dryer in the traditional sense that I'm used to. And we're on this live, and I'm hearing this thing for like over an hour. It's just like, and I'm like, this is the longest load of laundry that I ever had. And then it came out, and it was like not dry, but it was like a steamy type of hotness. I was just like, what is this?
Yeah, they're not the dryers. Even if you get a dryer, it's not like what we're used to, the fluff.
No.
Yeah, there's a lot, but the really important thing is, I think one thing folks are kind of like, well, what do I do with like a comforter? Or because we're used to having houses with big washers and dryers. There are so many really nice, really easy to use laundromats that have the big machines that will like dry things, large like rugs, things like that. They're all over the place. Even in the smallest towns, you can find that because that's what they do. And then also it's like, there's a rhythm to it now. Like when you hang up the laundry, and I didn't know how, like, trust me, my Portuguese friends have given us a ton of grief over different things that we just were like you get the octopus thing to hang all your socks on so that the whole thing, like, so you don't end up with a line of just socks. It's like brilliant. You can put like 10 pairs of socks on one thing. I didn't know that. Like it took a little bit of time to get used to it. So once you get in the rhythm and you have all the supplies, like copious amounts of clothespins, because they always break, disappear, you're good. But it does feel weird for those of us from the States to kind of get accustomed to this idea that but you don't hang out your dirty laundry. That's the funny thing. Everybody's like, don't put out your dirty. Nobody puts out their dirty laundry. It has to be washed. So you don't have to worry you're not hanging out your dirty laundry.
Yes. Alex is letting us know I'm always here. Hey, Alex.
Hello, Alex. Okay, he is. It's like
He is. He's always here.
So yeah. So do we have any other
Yes.
questions?
Doc Daniel, he's been hearing that Portugal is no longer affordable, and that we should not keep Portugal on our list. Can you give a realistic range for a T2 in an area where a car is not needed? That's a good question.
Absolutely. So Porto, I'm going to jump to Porto because we've talked a lot about Lisbon.
Mhm.
Porto is a city that has all the public transportation, and if you live within the urban area, you absolutely don't need a car. And you could, depending, now this is a big wide range because just a T2, an average T2, if it's about between 70 and 100 square meters, which is roughly between 700 and 1,000 square feet, and it is a 2-bedroom, kitchen, living, dining, and no extravagant outdoor space, maybe a little Juliet balcony or something. Reasonably, we've secured apartments just in the last week or so for clients that have been around 800 a month. And obviously, the more budget you have, the more amenities you get, but it is pretty reasonable. Even we've seen some slightly lower. What you're sacrificing for that price, just so you're completely aware, is usually you're not going to get any kind of heating or cooling system, which I know that's another big anxiety point for Americans. But the home I live in, where I'm at right now, has no heating or cooling system. There's a lot of homes in Portugal that are built. There's two options. You end up with a house, for example, that's north facing, that's in a damper climate, and you're cold no matter if you have heating or anything because you're not getting the light, the sun. It just doesn't feel like a warm place. Or, like in our case, you have a home with the aspect where you get sun all day long, you have lots of light, even in the wintertime. And because of the way it was constructed, the temperature stays average and comfortable all year round. So when I say it's a place without heat or cold, that doesn't mean you're going to be bundled up, constantly wearing, heavy sweaters, or vice versa, dying in the summer. Most of these places that you would be dealing with, you could mitigate any discomfort with a simple room fan or having a radiant heater that you plug in. And lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of folks live that way. Because it's really like Porto, for example, doesn't get that hot. You might have a couple days of the year where it feels uncomfortably warm, but you open up the windows, you get a nice breeze, and the temperatures cool off in the evening. You can sleep, it's comfortable. Wintertime in reverse, it can get cold and chilly at night. Portugal does not stay, it's not hot all year round. In the wintertime, even in the Algarve, it can drop into low temperatures and feel cold. So, having a radiator for heat to keep a room comfortable, or perhaps the place has a fireplace. There's a lot of ways to make yourself comfortable and not necessarily have to have the most modern heating and cooling. With that being said, if you wanted to have a T2 in Porto that was for rent, that did have modern amenities, that was a modern apartment with elevators, AC, a modern kitchen and bathroom, that type of thing, you'd realistically want to look around $1,200 a month.
Okay, cool. All right. And then I think, and staying in that vein, Greta was talking about a 0 or T1 with air conditioner and heat.
So it's interesting. Zeros and ones don't always save you that much money. The one, especially the T1, it's a weird thing that happens. T1s and it's more about the location. So this is where it gets tricky to quote prices because locations get really influenced. So yes, you could get a T1 apartment that faces north, that's 30 minutes away from the center of Lisboa, but still considered Lisbon, and probably find something that sits around $700 a month. But if that same exact apartment was within one of the subway lines and within 15 minutes of the center of Lisbon, you could pay double that.
Yeah.
So answering a question like that is really difficult, and clients really attach to a number when we give them a number. And that a lot of times is something we're very careful about, because what it is today, what it is next month, it's a fluid market and it's supply and demand. And right now there's a high demand for rentals. So you will not be in a negotiating position, most likely. It's pretty much you get the inventory and that's what you prepare for. So if you're looking for a rural place, like for example, Alcobaça is a town of 15,000 people, and it's right in the center, Silver Coast. It's an hour from Lisbon, and we have clients that have rented a 2-bedroom that's about 700 square feet for 425 a month.
Woo.
All
Love that.
all brand new with everything new inside.
Wow.
So the difference on the price points can be dramatic depending on where you're looking, what you're willing to have, if you have a car, if you don't. So you have to put all those things into the factor. There's no simple answer for it.
Mm-hmm. And then Gary said, Colleen and team are awesome.
Gary and Yvette, oh my gosh, you guys, congratulations. They just got their house signed. They are.
Oh my gosh, congratulations, Hey.
They also had the car experience, except for we almost got washed away in a flash flood. So,
Oh my Lord.
but Gary was very calm. He was very good.
It's just water.
I did learn some choice words from Staten Island, I think, or wherever they put their queens. What I don't know, but I got some. Let's just say some expressions I never had before I met them.
I can imagine. Oh man. So I'm gonna make Vanetta's question the last one because I'm being respectful of Colleen, and I have a very big time zone difference, and it's getting towards the dinner hour for her. So we're gonna close it off with this last question, and then I will pull up the video so that you guys can get, because I have been kind of teeing it up. And then I have a couple of announcements, and then we'll close us out. So Vanetta asked about purchasing. Now, we've been talking primarily about apartments. So is there anything that is different or that should just be bubbled up to the surface about purchasing?
Well, purchasing is an option. I think a lot of folks are very concerned about the idea of purchasing real estate in a foreign country for good reason. There's a lot of different things, but you know, it is totally possible. About 50% of our clients purchase as opposed to rent. Variety of reasons. One of the reasons is finding a place that works for your pet. It is much more difficult with a large breed to find as many choices of available properties. So for a lot of folks, they want what they want, and they want to make sure they can have their lifestyle. And then there is those folks that just know this is where they're moving to, and they know the market is changing and the costs are going up. So they want to grab that, you know, they want their piece of Portugal right away. The biggest thing is, and again, I'm not a real estate agent. It's a very different relationship that I have with my clients as opposed to a professional real estate agent. I don't work on commission. We have a fee structure that is based on your needs, your location. There's a variety of ways that that's factored. And then I work on your behalf to help you navigate. We kind of laughingly call it a cultural translator, to help you see and understand all the different parts that you need to know to make a good decision. And I'm also there to say, hey, let's put the brakes on. Let's slow down a little bit. There's some red flags here that are starting to make me a little concerned. So it's the idea of having a person that has the experience from a variety of lenses to help you go through this process. So if you want to purchase, it is completely doable. The pieces of advice I would give you is you absolutely have to do it with an attorney, a vetted real estate attorney with experience in working with international parties is a must. Do not do it without an attorney. Whatever little bit you think you're saving, you won't save. Absolutely. Secondly, if you decide to do it without a relocation team or working with us, vet your real estate agent. Make sure that that agent has the experience, is with a reputable agency, understands the whole process of navigating the purchase and supporting you and assisting you, because some agents in Portugal, they don't require a license. So some agents in Portugal could literally be the only house they've ever sold, could be the one that's listed because they're also the owner, or it's their uncles or something, and they just kind of put the jacket on and say, I'm a realtor. You know, that's a lot of the reasons that there's such different experiences in Portugal for people. One person says it's the worst thing they've ever gone through. They've been ghosted. They lost money. And another person says this was an amazing experience and we have the house we've been looking for. So whatever your choice is, and if you're considering purchasing, it is something where you should do your homework. And I would really encourage you to work with professionals all the way through.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to thank you, Colleen, for being, and Alex and the whole team, right, for being my right hand in all of this, and making this possible. First of all, making this part, finding my place possible. Um, I'm happy about where I am, and that it exceeded all of my expectations. I mean, Colleen had to pull me out of the bathroom because I got distracted.
It was a tub. You didn't expect a tub.
I wasn't expecting a tub. It was not on my list, but it was something I secretly wanted. And when I saw it, I was like, oh, and it's like, but there's more to the apartment than the tub. Come out of the bathroom. So I definitely want to encourage you. And then, oh wow, Diane, how awesome. Diane says, as a Portugal the Place client, we can say their services are extremely valuable. Yes, they are. And I can definitely attest to that. I encourage everyone to, the ticker has been rolling, scrolling across the screen. Definitely connect with Colleen and the team. If you have additional questions about Portugal. I know we didn't get to anything talking about, as I mentioned, the D7 visas. We actually did that video a few weeks ago with Sandra Gomes Pinto talking about real estate and immigration. I'll try and link that in the description of this video if somebody wants to watch that who hasn't seen it or wants to watch it again. But she will be here next Saturday, and we'll be talking specifically about visas and those options. So definitely make sure you are subscribed to the channel, have the notification bell on. Subscribe to our email list because I send out emails. Or better yet, join us in the Blaxit Global Passport community. I do want to announce, I announced it on yesterday's live, but I know we have a broader audience. So I, along with Rick and Halisi of Our Black Utopia, we are co-hosting the Move to Portugal Virtual Summit. It is taking place November 4th and 5th. So if you join the mailing list, actually, let me drop that link because it is a different mailing list link. If you join this list, you will get all of the updates for the Move to Portugal Summit. We will have a wonderful lineup of guests, and we will be taking questions and having a variety of topics. We're talking real estate, immigration, legal, of course, financial independence. We'll be hearing from expats who are sharing their transition journeys at all stages and ages. And so it's really to give you the tools and the resources that you need if Portugal is where you want to be or in the consideration set and you just want to take a deeper dive. So I invite you to take advantage while you are here to join that mailing list because we will have early bird pricing for a limited time. So you want to be the first to know when that drops. So I did keep teeing up that we had this special video. So before I let Colleen go, I'm going to tee up this special video of us.
And thank you so much for having me on today. I've been looking forward to seeing you, and then I get to see you with everyone else. So
I know, right? I'm just like, and look, and the next time I think we'll see each other, we'll be in the same space, in the same country once again.
Everyone will know because it'll just like brighten up because when we're together, it's a little crazy. No, it's great. And for the folks that want to talk, and I know there's a lot of additional questions, please, contacting us, the call is free. They can get, the phone call, and we'd love to help people decide. So don't feel shy. If they just want to make a call and learn more, absolutely comfortable with that.
Yes, that is awesome. Definitely take advantage of that. Like I said, I have the ticker there scrolling, and actually I'll put it also in the comments just in case anybody has trouble getting it while it's scrolling. I will put your URL here. Definitely connect with Colleen and team. You'll be well served because, as you can tell, she's a wonderful person. Her team is amazing, a breadth of knowledge, and just fun. So I'm going to show y'all this video and then we will let you go. So another one of Krishan and Colleen's exploits in Portugal.
Those trees that come here, let's go do it.
Oh yeah.
And the realtor from the first house just said that you got the house.
Welcome to Portugal. Hey, who found her place in Portugal? Yeah.
The elevator.
And the elevator.
Oh, the elevator.
And as you can see, the elevators are pretty. You get close. Oh man. So on that note, Colleen, and I know the chat lit up again. Everyone, thanks you for being here. It was fabulous to have the opportunity to share this connection with the rest of the gang. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure today. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. Take care. We'll see you guys. I'll be live again next Saturday.